Hello again, slightly different angle and a setup. I'm doing screen recording and all sorts of kind of things, but this is another short video that I'm gonna make, and it's mainly gonna deal with breakdown of the main theme for Solar Explorer New Dawn. It was a really fun part. One of the most fun parts of the project was actually making the music, especially after coding and all the problem solving when you're in the middle of that for a long time. Getting to do music was a wonderful change overall. Plus I got to use all these beauties and make them shine in doing what they do best. So I'm just gonna do a nice breakdown of the tracks, how they were done, what was used, and and wrap up with the final result, how it looked. So here we go. Alright, so there's only a couple of tracks here. Let's see here, yep. So we have only a few tracks here because this is my mixing file. So basically I'm just gonna expand them all so that you can see what's what. And some more here as well. And there we go. So now we can see everything. And as you can see, I have a couple of groups here. The main idea about the song for the main menu was that it needs to be multi-tracked or layered. And as you unlock a different world, different version of the song is played, or basically more channels come in. So that was the idea how it was composed as well. And the whole idea for the theme started with just a doodle on a guitar. So I was in the middle of programming, problem solving something, and then this theme just started going in my head, and I know that they can run away quite easily. So I grabbed the guitar and doodled it there. This is how that sounded. And then later on, when I had the time, I used that exact same video to actually lay out the starting ARP, which was this. So let's get that to the beginning, and yep. And this little ARP is, and it had a minor and it had a major version, and I had different variations of it. I thought I wouldn't be using them, but they actually went in, and they are contained in the variation of the song for the game, for the interactive version. But this is actually my Behringer DeepMind 12. So that was the start of the track, was this little ARP and DeepMind 12 doing the kind of nice synth action. Now, pretty much immediately after that, I knew that I wanted to have a nice pad theme that's gonna be the main melody that carries it, and I knew that it would need to be layered in some way. So instead of making one big patch, I decided to break it down into 3 pads, and those 3 pads can work independently or together. And the first pad, they all play the same line, they just behave differently, right? So the first one is System 8 running as Jupiter 8, and I made a kind of nice vintagey type of pad that has a lot of drifting and a lot of imperfections in there, and just to make it fun. And this is how that sounds like. And this is, incidentally, that pad is what you hear when you're just listening to the Moon version of the main menu song. So this is without any external effects. That's all just internal here. So yeah, it's nice, mellow, but it has this kind of almost rotary speaker type of feel to it, which was a delay that I was setting up on System 8 as well, in trying to design that type of rotary speaker feel almost, but it's not choppy, but it has that imperfection. When drowned up in H9 reverb, that sounds very, very nice, and it offers that kind of variation so that the reverb, the long-tailed reverb that I use, it doesn't continue to use the same type of frequencies and notes, because that can become messy. So this is a nice variation that works. Then my beautiful, beautiful Q, the Yellow Beast Q. I adore Q's comb filters and everything about it, but the comb filters are insane, and you can make these bow sounds which are so nice. So I wanted to make as Jupiter 8 is very mellow and kind of low, it does have a punchy bottom. So as you can hear, whoops, not that punchy. So it's not super slow, it's almost there. It doesn't have any attack or anything like that, but it glides in relatively soon. But it does leave this beginning attack enough for Q to come in with this sound. I love this one. It's almost like you're playing with piano strings. Yeah, with the strings in the piano, which were maybe made out of reverb springs. Weird, but I love it. But the whole point is that those two together, you get the attack of the Q and that tail springiness, and it's all EQ'd to be in the high range, while the System 8 is in mid and lows, so that they don't clash, so that they actually complement each other. So if you play them together, they go like this. So they're not selfish, everybody leaves room for everybody else. But I also wanted to have this really, really large, powerful, almost lead type of pad, if that makes sense. And that, of course, had to be the Roland JD990, because that thing sounds fantastic. And that's using the vintage card. Starting Point was one of the presets, but then I modified it and made it into what I needed it to be, and that would be this guy. And it's also dry, so I can't really I can't demonstrate right here. You will hear how it all sounds as a final version through H9, because that makes a bit of a difference, because the way the screen capture works, it doesn't like to screen capture ASIO, and yeah, so I can't use all the tracks here. But anyway, in dry, all of these three, actually, that's my pad. So we got System 8, we got Q, and we got JD990, all playing in tandem to form this beautiful, massive pad, which is the main melody. All right, So the next part was quite easy. I wanted to add a bit of a rhythm to it, so that was going to be a very muted bass, and my absolute favorite for these types of things, when you need a clear, punchy, strong yet controllable bass, Waldorf Pulse 1 is unbeatable. That's my go-to bass machine, simply because in a mix it sits unbelievably well. And this one is pretty much a saw with a hint of pulse, just a little, not pulse, sorry, with a hint of square, so a little bit of square to give it that bottom, and saw to give it a nice edge, and it's dulled down very much, so it just has a tiny bit of attack, and then of course compressors, limiters and everything to make it punchy. The bass is... yeah, all on its own it doesn't really make too much sense, but basically every bass that I make, at least, I try to make it sound really good and sit in the mix. I'm not too bothered how it sounds on its own, but it needs to do its role in the mix. So basically, if I give myself, let's add the arpeggiator, pads and the bass, so all together they sound... so yeah, the bass gives this nice rhythm to the whole thing, because everything else is very smooth, but the bass is right there just to kind of cut it a little. So when I was happy with that, that was probably the Mercury level, and then I needed to push it further on for Venus, and for Venus that was going to be the percussions. For percussions I use Damage, and I really love that library, but its default EQing is not something that I like. It's extremely mid-heavy, and it doesn't leave room for anything else. It's a really selfish mix. So if you were to play it just by themselves, they're great, but as soon as you put anything else on top, there's no way, because they are crunched up, they're compressed up, and they're taking all of the room. So I usually use Damage like this. I switch it, I split it into lows, mids and highs, and then I give them all, each channel I give different EQ, compression, and yeah, just make sure that they don't interfere with themselves and that they leave enough room for everything else that's in there. So all together they sound like this. Now, you can see that they're cut off, but that's because the reverb is not here. So the reverb takes on the tail and kind of eases it out. It's very dry right now, but that's all the elements. Basically, that's all of the elements that we have here. And yeah, all together without H9 sounds like this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the final version I'm gonna play in the end or outro of this video. So yeah, I hope somebody at least found this interesting. I just wanted to make it a breakdown because I really enjoyed making all of these tracks kind of sit well together and to paint a nice picture. Especially I love building up massive pads from different synths, and it's a lot of fun to do. So So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, check out the game. It would